All right, great. It's just coming up at 9 a.m., so we're going to get started. Thanks for everyone who joined today's webinar on virtual shielding. I want to just take a quick moment and introduce today's panelists. So my name is Madeline Lauria. I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'm an account executive for NEDAP Retail in the Americas. I'm based out of our Boston headquarters, and I'm really focusing on working with retailers to outline their RFID deployment strategy and build an ROI or business case around RFID. And with me today, I have Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Madeline. My name is Tom Viehweger. I'm working for NEDAP in Germany. And as a business development manager, I work together with brands and retailers predominantly from the fashion and apparel industry to identify the potentials, where to fit the great technology RFID into their supply chain strategy. So you could say I'm orchestrating this technology with the business needs in retail.
Great, thanks for joining, Tom. Before we get started on content, just want to go over a few quick house rules. So this webinar will last around 30 minutes. After that, we're going to do a Q&A. So if you have any questions that come up throughout the presentation on various topics, please drop those in the Q&A bucket. You can see that on the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's a little Q&A icon. And we're going to be doing a few polls throughout the presentation. So if you hear us talking about it or you see a window pop up on your screen, please choose a response that fits you. And we're going to be recording today's presentation. So if you're interested in watching it again, sharing it with your colleagues, this will be posted on our website in the next few days. So we are hosting this webinar this week. We know that there are a lot of uncertainties out there, both in personal and professional lives of colleagues around the world. And we just want to be able to come together and share knowledge and discuss topics other than what's going on in the world. So today we're going to be talking about virtual shielding in retail stores. So what is virtual shielding? We will cover that in this webinar, but we want to build the foundation and explain a little bit around what physical shielding is and also what the benefits in the store are. We've done some tests within retail organizations, so we are happy to share that data with you as well as we get through. Just want to briefly introduce us. This is NEDAP Retail. We are based out of our global headquarters, which is in the Netherlands. As I mentioned before, I am in our Boston office, which is our North American headquarters. But we are a global team coming together in the space of retail, hardware and software solutions. So let's get right into it. So I want to ask you guys a quick question. Are you already using RFID technology? So you see a poll pop up on your screen there. Your options are, I do not use RFID. I'm planning to use RFID. I use RFID in some of my stores, or I use RFID in all of my stores. I'll give everyone a couple of seconds here, drop your response in. This will be helpful for us as we go through the webinar just to get a foundation on where we're at. Great to see those responses coming in. A couple more seconds. All right, let's share those results with you guys. It looks like we have a nice mix today. No one here that uses RFID in all of their stores, but a few people that use it in some or not at all. So I think that that's great. This is the right time to be learning more about shielding. Thank you, guys. So maybe some of us already know the benefits of RFID in retail, but what we're really focusing on is building that foundational block of stock accuracy. So we believe that stock accuracy will help us to lead to merchandise availability. Another way that we say that is to help your customers never miss the sale. So we want to make sure that we have the right products out and available for customers when they come into the store. And as a millennial, my expectations are changing. I want to make sure that I know that shirt is in the store before I walk in. Maybe I want to just sit at a coffee shop and purchase it and expect that to be shipped to my house within the next day. These are omnichannel concepts, and having accurate stock information is going to be key when you're enabling ship from store or buy online pickup in store. And we also want to be able to arm your store associates with the tools to be more productive, to be efficient in their job. And that could mean with fulfilling orders, or that could just mean spending more time with the customers. Again, helping you to increase your sales within the store. I want to ask you guys one more quick poll. And for this one, I'm going to hand it over to Tom.
Yes, and before we ask you a question, I just want to point towards the Q&A section. So if you have any questions to us, please use the Q&A button you have in the Zoom panel at the bottom line, and we will collect those questions and answer at the end of this webinar. So my question to you, though, is what do you think is the benefit of distinguishing stockroom and sales floor in retail stores? Do you think this is necessary to easier find items in the store? Or do you think it's necessary to apply services like ship from store? Do you think it's necessary to refill and replenish items in the store? Or finally, don't you think it's necessary at all? So again, we give you a few more seconds to have a picture about your opinion. And I think we're through. So what do you say? On the one hand, a few of you think it's easier to find items, but most of you think, even 94%, that it's necessary for refill. And yeah, you're totally right. If we look into those benefits, I tend to say that the stockroom in a typical retail store is the place of hidden treasures. So ERP systems, POS systems, or merchandise management systems very often don't or are not able to provide any information about the stock on sub-locations. So RFID actually can do that and provide the actual size availability of products per sub-location. So you as a retailer see what options, especially on color size level, are not on the sales floor, but still in the back room and must be refilled though. Yeah? So it's necessary for a reliable in-store refill. Second benefit is better customer service. For example, you see in the video for shoes, very often there's only one product on display. The customer is asking for a specific size, and before your sales colleagues, the associates in the stores, just run to the stockroom and search blindly with a mobile device and RFID data, they can exactly see what's available and what is not. And last but not least, there's an added benefit, and this is to promote the stock from the stockroom online. And this helps you, for example, to enable services like click and reserve, click and collect, but also ship from store, and only promote those stocks that are not actually available to the customer in the store. So you avoid a double sale. For example, a customer would pick exactly the same item and buy that in the moment when the online order is coming in. So why do we need to shield those sub-locations? If you have attended our previous 2 editions of this webinar series, we were already discussing the technical benefits of RFID, which are those 4 you can see on this slide. First of all, it's the bulk reading. Bulk reading means you can scan multiple articles at the same time, a few hundred in just a few seconds. Secondly, there's distance reading. You can scan and register items and RFID labels up to a distance to 5 meters or 15 feet. You do not need any optical contact. That's number 3. So this enables you to scan fast through closed boxes or through any materials, but not metal and liquids. And last but not least, the technical benefit of RFID is the data capacity on the chip. So you can apply serialization and distinguish unique items for track and trace reasons. So basically what we say is that RFID, especially with mobile devices, is just too good. Yeah? RFID readers are really powerful, and thus they can read through walls and floors, for example, which can lead to a wrong allocation of the sub-locations per product. And finally, if that happens, refill recommendations are maybe not reliable. And one of our guiding principles is to make the life as easy as possible for the sales associates, for those people who work in the store, work with the customers, and finally sell. So they shall make customer happy, they shall enable that the right merchandise is available on the display, and just do their job and sell. So, Madeline, what kind of shieldings, if we need to shield the RFID labels, do you know or are available for retail stores so far?
Yeah, so Tom, when I speak with retailers, the two most common options that I see in the market are metallic foils and metallic paint. So the foil is a nice shiny wallpaper that you can adhere directly to the wall, but it is a more expensive option. The other option is the metallic paint. So they're both serving the same purpose. They're both going to protect this critical zone that we call it between your stockroom and your sales floor from reading those RFID labels through the walls or doors. But it's not completely a foolproof solution. So there are some limitations around physical shielding. The first being cost. So we've seen with our customers that this can cost anywhere between $2,500 to $4,000. So this is definitely going to add a barrier when you're thinking about your deployment. This is another thing that you need to be sure to budget for. These costs that I'm quoting are inclusive of construction costs, material costs, and maybe the hours that you need to be shutting down to apply this. And as you can see here, our wonderful colleague, Mark, he's trying to shield this door. And the problem with that is if you're doing a cycle count and you're in this sales floor, and then you go to the stock room and you open that door, well, you're going to start reading those labels through again. So not completely foolproof. Another thing to be aware of is that it's blocking RFID waves, but it's also going to be blocking your Wi-Fi signal. So if you need Wi-Fi for functions both in the stockroom and on the sales floor, then you need to add an additional router or maybe a booster. But there are other options to make this more effective, and that's what we're talking about today. But before we dive into how virtual shielding works, Tom, can you share with us how it was born? I know you've been with the company for quite some time now, so I'd love to hear this.
When you ask that question, I just have some kind of like a deja vu when I look out of the window, because it must have been a sunny day like today, just maybe 2 years ago, when I have been on a customer workshop with some colleagues, and the customer was challenging us. Actually, it's a brand, a fashion brand with a few hundred stores globally. They have already been very convinced of RFID as a great, fascinating technology with all the technical benefits. They saw the need to have stock accuracy to distinguish the store and stop locations for their omnichannel strategy. But when they did the calculation of their business case, they challenged us and said, if I calculate the costs for shielding in a store and just multiply that by a few hundred stores that I have worldwide, wouldn't it be possible to use a smarter solution, and of course a more cost-effective solution? And me and my colleagues, we were coming back to the office, had a drink, some snacks of course, and we're thinking and brainstorming, and relatively fast the idea of virtual shielding was born, and we were not sure if it works reliably. We did some tests and we're really surprised and fascinated and totally motivated that it was working so well. We improved those algorithms, and finally the virtual shielding was born. What I need to say is that this proved us to be on the right track with one fundamental decision we already did earlier, and this is to move all functionalities we have to the cloud. Actually, our product is also called ID Cloud, an RFID solution in the cloud, and this gave us just the opportunity to have all the processing, all the computing power, and all the intelligence on a strong backend in the internet on servers. And so this helped us to really use all the signals, all the data, and compute them in the cloud. And I think Madeline, that's your part. Can you describe how it works actually?
Yes, so hopefully at this point in the webinar, everyone's thinking, okay, well, how does it actually work? So I'm gonna break it down pretty simplistically. RFID labels can be read multiple times, and the RFID reader has an option to read it once and say, okay, I've read that, we're all set, or it can continuously be reading that labels. And this is the basis of this smart algorithm that we're talking about. As you're going through your cycle count, you're reading each item numerous times, and we see again in that critical area between the stockroom and the sales floor, we're reading those items. And based on that data set that we are then calculating in real time, what is the likely tag location? And we are then allocating it to the correct sublocation. So there's some other special sauce that goes in there, but in very simple terms, this is how it works. And then in real time, we're giving you this insight to your device so you can see how your colleagues are doing in real time with throughout the count. So Tom, can you share some tips and tricks for using virtual shielding?
Yes, of course. Before we come to some of the results, I want to share some tips and tricks. First of all, you must count all your sub-locations during the during those inventory counts, because you associate the sub-location with your scan. And even what we want to do, since we have the calculation power on the back end, is to collect as many data points and sensor data as possible, because this makes it actually possible to compare the signal strengths of the RFID labels that are registered during the scan, and then the algorithm can decide on which sublocation the product actually is. But it means you need to count all the items, all the products on all the sublocations you have in a store. The second point is we recommend to have a reliable Wi-Fi connection. It's not mandatory, but it's better because it enables real-time calculation on the back end and feed that result, the calculation result of the algorithm, directly back to the user device. And as mentioned before, we want to make the life for the sales associates in the store who are doing the scan as easy as possible. And real-time data really help them to do it quick, easy, and reliable. And last but not least, there's very often, or a question we receive very often from customers, from retailers, and it's coming predominantly from those who are operating their stores in a multi-label environment and want to use source tagged products, RFID source tag products from their brands, and would like to know if it's possible to use the virtual shielding algorithm to also ignore the RFID tags from neighboring stores. So as I said, it's possible to count on your sublocation to associate the products to the sublocation. However, you cannot go to your competitors or any neighboring stores to do that. So basically, then it's not, as a consequence, possible to use the virtual shielding. But there is another solution, and this is based on outbound scans in the DC. If you scan all the products that leave the DC and associate it with the store, you can filter out the store, the tags and the products from your competitors. We already did a webinar on how to use RFID in the DC and related benefits. I recommend to watch that if you not even did that already. It's available on our website. If you have any questions, please refer to us or use the Q&A session. So if we now look into a few of the results, we did extensive tests in various stores, a few hundred stores all over the world, and verified and compared leakage, the RFID signal leakage in various different environments based on different parameters like different type of products, different layout of stores or store sizes, and compared the leakage without shielding at all, leakage with physical shielding, and leakage with virtual shielding. And what we can finally say is that the virtual shielding performs way better than physical shielding because the algorithm is more reliable than a physical shielding that is also dependent on a process. Because, for example, if you do a scan, someone might open a door if a door is shielded, and then the RFID radio waves fly through, so to say. And last but not least, it's also nearly impossible to shield everything, every niche, every corner in a store. Sometimes you have a ceiling or a cellar, and also the radio waves can go through those niches. So, Madeline, that was all the technical stuff. What do our customers say about the virtual shielding feature who already use it?
Yeah, Tom, you actually triggered a question from me on the previous slide. I just wanted to ask. You were saying that in order for virtual shielding to work, you need to be sure to scan all sublocations. So if I'm a retailer with numerous stock rooms on different floors, would this still work? How would I handle that?
Yeah, so basically as a retailer and in our system, you can define as many sublocations as you want. So this is unlimited. The question is where it makes sense. So sublocations can have types, and this is either a sales floor or a stock room. And this is necessary also to allocate and to calculate refill recommendations. So basically, you must define where you want to refill from, which information you need from a stock management point of view, and then just do the scan there. All we need to know is which sub-locations you have in the store, and then start counting, and the algorithm works. That's it.
Cool, thanks, Tom. And back to your question about what our customers are saying, this is a quote from one of the customers that we developed virtual shielding with. They were able to remove a multi-million-dollar cost component. They already had this in their budget to be able to start applying to stores, but they were very happy with the effectiveness of virtual shielding. And since this has been developed, we have not had to apply physical shielding to any stores before RFID deployments. Of course, on an exception basis, this might be necessary, but so far it has worked very well. And I just want to highlight some key takeaways from this webinar. This is the last slide, but we are really trying to get across here that virtual shielding is helping to eliminate the barriers to deploy within stores. We see that the market is moving towards quick RFID deployments, easy to learn, easy to teach. And we're doing this by moving towards the cloud, but we're also doing this by having more smart algorithms. Taking away that manual aspect of RFID helps to make it much easier for the store associates. So we're also taking away that time and that cost component for virtual shielding.